On the ANC base, why does it gain and lose support? The data here runs from 94 to 2022. The black pyramid, read off the left-hand axis, that's ANC support in national elections. 63% becomes 70%, and it steps down to the 58% of Mr. Ramaphosa in 2019. On top of that, I put for you per capita GDP, inflation-adjusted per capita GDP. And you should be skeptical of polls, or you should be skeptical of analysts such as myself. But you should try really hard not to believe anything I tell you. And if you can convince yourselves that it's wrong, you're in a good position to take a decision. If, despite trying to not believe it, you find it hard to think that it's probably not real, maybe there's something to it. The ANC in office initially does very well to raise basic per capita GDP. At the same time, I think we've got a chart on this perhaps next, in its first decade in power, it's doubled the number of people with a job. So jobless growth under Thabo Mbeki is nonsense. It was nothing like that. In terms of service delivery, in 94, 50% of families did not have electricity. In 2004, that was down to 20%. 10 formal houses were built for every shack that was newly erected in the first decade. ANC support went up for the deceptively simple reason that life was getting better in the country for the great majority of its people. And all sorts of B-grade rubbish analysts were telling people about liberation era loyalty voting, and ANC voters would never vote for anyone else because they're just voting cattle and they don't really think. The decisions of ANC voters, we've always understood, now we know even better, are perfectly reasoned, logical and sensible in the main. And they take decisions based on material circumstances and their expectations of how those will turn. Yeah, we've got jobs here, in fact. There's ANC support again, from 63 to 70 and down. This little dotted line is the number of people with a job. It starts at 7.5 million. When Mbeki leaves his office, it's sitting at 14 million. It's subsequently sitting at 15 million, 15 years later. And in fact, Mbeki was an interesting guy because here, as he left office, the civil service was no larger than when he'd started. And here it is somewhat larger. And in practice, this last 15 years is zero net new private sector job creation, which is an astonishing thing to think of. Beneath that line, the blue line with the big blue dots, that's the number of social grants paid every month. They started off at 2 million. When Mbeki left, they were 12 million. The grant rollout slowed, and now grants taken off. That's the 350 Rand grant. If you test grants amongst ANC voters, they resent the grants. They're dependent on the grants, but they're not grateful to the ANC for the grants. Grants have become a problem for the ANC because voter perception is this all that you do for us? 350 Rand a month. This is the liberation struggle, what it was worth. So on the campaign trail now, unless you come across a particularly ill-informed politician, you won't see people stand on the stage saying, we will give more grants, because the audience would react unfavorably. This is the national direction of travel indicator. I showed you from 2018 as Mr. Ramaphosa is at the height of his Ramaphoria, and I showed you into March of this year. And what it measures, it's the net position between the share of people who think the country is moving in the right direction and the share of people who think the country is moving in the wrong direction. So it starts off at -40, which is catastrophic. When I started as a young analyst about 2004, this was a positive number. Ramaphorex manages for a time to hold the number at -40. Just holds it and holds it. And there's this kind of hope, which many of us sitting in the IRR at the time, we didn't share at all and made us very unpopular, that he's not a reformer. And through the pandemic and subsequently, confidence in the future of the country has collapsed to an amazing extent. or negative 70. This stuff isn't always directly comparable around the world, but there is no state in a free society, no administration that can survive negativity of these depths. It's to say if we remain a free society, the ANC's time in office is done. On Mr. Ramaphosa himself, this is his favorability score. So it's quite complicated how this is created, but we ask people, do they feel warm or cold about him? And we ask them to indicate the extent of that. And coming into Ramaphosa, he was very strong. He sits at about 60 points. But the spell is being broken, and he's falling away very quickly. And he's sitting at around 40 points at the moment. And the ANC is much more popular than this. I think, have we got other political leaders in this show tonight? Okay. Give you a relative sense of things. The most popular opposition leader in the country in March was Helen Zille. She was at 25. Second was Julius Malema. He was at 24. Third was Musi Maimane at 23. Herman Mashaba was at 14. Malema must have been at 12. No, he was up there. Who was it? Someone else was at 12. John Steenhuisen was at 12. And Paul Mashatile, who's in the line of succession in the ANC, also did terribly badly. Nowhere near anything of this nature. But within the ANC itself, and remember, these are the diehards who've remained in the party to vote for it. Lots have departed. Ramaphosa is 59, at the moment. But Mashatile inside the ANC is 14. So Ramaphosa's popularity is immense. Most people don't like their politicians. And so even our opposition guys in the 20s aren't doing that badly at all, actually. But Ramaphosa's 59 in the ANC is holding the ANC at its present levels. And he will one day go. And the guy taking over is orders of magnitude lower than him. So the personality effect that's holding the ANC up is one of the things that we know is going to be removed. And we might even show you this evening some of the modeling that's been done on what happens in an election after Ramaphosa goes. And the data is quite amazing.